Today's episode, you guys, is brought to you by Perfect Storm Real Estate Specific Software. It's the website I use in my business. I'm actually a partial owner within the company that's been able to give my input to help create a piece of software that is uber effective at lead generation in our real estate businesses. That website, www.perfectstormnow.com. Go check that out. It's amazing, epic front-end lead generation site that's extremely affordable for real estate agents out there. Also, today's episode is brought to you by our 90-day mastery bootcamp. If you're in the real estate industry, if you're wanting to take your business to the next level, this is a gnarly, crazy experience. We go through for 90 days straight. There's there is 13 total sessions that we go through. Each weekly session is about 2 to 3 hours long every single week. Plus, you have daily access to me going through the experience through the group. So to check out more about that program, we roll those out about every 90 days. We stagger them once in a while, but we do about 3 or 4 of those every single year. So if you want to spend the next 90 days with me, about 40 hours of just crazy epic content helping your business take it to the next level, go to www.90daymastery.com. That's our sales page. You can see testimonials, learn more about the product, and register and sign up right there. If you are signing up, make sure to use the promo code LiveMastery, all caps, all together, all one word, LiveMastery. It saves you $500 and makes that whole entire 90-day coaching experience only $997 for you guys. So, all right, let's jump on in. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD interview, where we interview just top badasses that are out there dominating their space, right? From top entrepreneurs, top health and fitness professionals, there's people out there choosing to create epic lives and do big things with this world. So today, you guys, we got a special guest on the show. I'm really excited to have this guest on. Been trying to get him on the show for a while, finally able to connect. So our guest today is an online digital marketing guru, coach, consultant, public speaker. And this guy's got a lot going on, so really excited to have Josh Schoenly on the show today. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, and thanks for actually saying my last name right. That is unusual and unique all on its own. So I appreciate the intro, and I appreciate you having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man, you got it, dude. Absolutely. So I've been a fan of yours for a while. You got a lot of stuff going on. I've been on a lot of your webinars and things that you're doing. But before we kind of talk about what you're doing today, let's rewind the clocks a little bit, dude. Like, how did you get your start in entrepreneurship? Rewind it back to, I don't know, high school, college, whatever. Like, how did you get introduced and get started as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, my parents were entrepreneurs. And I would say they were more self-employed than kind of grinders than what I look at myself and what I have become. But, I grew up around that. So, my parents have never had a quote-unquote job, or I guess my dad did before I was around, but I never saw him have a job. So I grew up around that. However, I was never really interested in business for whatever reason growing up. It just wasn't of interest to me. I went to college to be a health and physical education teacher, and I thought in late high school and in college, like, that was what I was going to do. I was going to be a PE teacher, a gym teacher, and I was going to coach sports, and that would be what I would do the rest of my life. But it didn't take very long for me to realize that I didn't want to look at a piece of paper that was going to tell me what I would be paid for the rest of my life. And that's what, like, a teacher's contract looks like. That it's like, you go down the side, how many years you have, what your education level, and that's what you're going to get paid. And, maybe you get a cost of living increase or whatever. But it didn't sit well with me. And it was it was only after a couple of years of doing that I started looking at other opportunities. I found 2 books in particular that stood out that drastically changed all of my thinking. One was a Russ Whitney book, and I can't remember the name of that, but it was a Russ Whitney book. But the one that really changed everything and my paradigm and how I look at everything was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I read that about 10 or 12 years ago, opened my mind to a whole different realm of possibility. And I would say my entrepreneurial journey sort of started there. There was lots of different little things here and there that fed into that. I remember my wife and I, the first house we ever bought, we sold it 15 months later for more than my salary was at the time. Like the increase was greater than the salary. And I really got me thinking, like, did that really just happen? Now, part of that was just, it was a function of the market and stuff like that. But nonetheless, it opened my eyes to different opportunities. It got me involved in real estate, or it's what led to me being involved in real estate, and just sort of, I don't know, it was one of many experiences along the way that have led to me being where I am right now.
Yeah, so let's kind of talk about that transition, man, because in entrepreneurship, the stat is 90% don't make it within the first, 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of struggles that happen, and I'm sure you experienced a lot of those struggles, but we're able to keep pushing through those. What was that like? Like, what was kind of maybe your first venture that you jumped into once you decided to make that shift?
Well, I think like a lot of folks, one of the first things I did was I checked out a network marketing company. I can, this experience has shaped my life and what I've been teaching since it happened. So I remember being super excited about it, right? I mean, it's one of the things that Kiyosaki, it's one of his favorite sort of business types that he recommends for folks because of the learning that you get and so forth. And so I remember a guy who I met through some sort of local networking got me enrolled, and I remember being so excited, just so fired up. And the first thing, like after I got enrolled, one of the first things, if not the first thing he did, was handed me this memory jogger sheet. And it's like, all right, I want you to write down 200 names of people that you can call and invite to check out what you're doing. I remember the resistance that rose up, that came up for me like immediately. Like, there's no way that this is how I'm going to build a business. I'm not going to build a business around chasing friends and family and doing that kind of stuff. I was determined to figure out a better way, and that experience has shaped what I've eventually sort of evolved into, which is teaching people how to attract business to them versus chasing people down through cold calling, prospecting, and so forth, because it was born out of my resistance to wanting to do that personally. And I figured if I'm having this resistance, I'm not the only one, and it's not, I just looked at it like there's got to be a better way to do this than this sort of old school way of thinking. And it kind of morphed into a journey of finding those ways. And then once I figured it out for myself, because I had a passion for teaching and educating, that's what I decided to take that skill set that I learned and sort of make it my life's purpose, or at least at this point, to share that with others, primarily real estate agents, but in other avenues as well, and with other industries, etc.
So when you got into real estate, did you jump in as a realtor doing traditional sales, or was it more just the investment side?
Yeah, great question. So I started out investing, and for, I don't even remember how many years, probably 3-4 years, I bought a bunch of places as rentals. I flipped a bunch of places. I wholesaled properties. I did a little bit of everything. And I remember when we got pregnant with my first son. I have four kids, so on top of everything else, I have 4 kids, 8 and under, no less.
Busy.
I remember when he was born, or as in the few months before he was born, I had been doing real estate as an investor and been having some levels of success and doing some things, and had actually accumulated a pretty good amount of properties, I decided to take paternity leave, which it was funny. My principal didn't even know that was in our contract. He's like, I didn't even know you could do that, because typically it's maternity leave, not paternity leave. But my wife, our due date for our oldest, Caden, was December 25th. Well, he ended up coming a month early. But the plan was I was going to take paternity leave for the rest of the year to see if I could make it work. Like, could I do this full time? Knowing that if it didn't work out, I could sort of decide over the summer that I was going to come back from paternity leave. I could just go back to teaching. Well, I never went back. And like you've said, it wasn't always easy. I mean, there were some really rough and dark times throughout that process, but looking back on it, I would not change a single thing. So during that process, though, I got introduced to traditional real estate in a non-traditional way. So I think most agents get into real estate through the traditional way of, hey, I like showing houses, I can sell houses to my friends and family. Or some people might get into it because they had a bad experience when they bought and they figured, well, I can do it better than this, or whatever the case may be. I came into it with a marketing model and a sort of marketing system already built in, and I was going to focus on real estate investors. So I was an investor. I was still actively investing, and I was going to focus on working with investors. And so I got my real estate license, I think, and at the beginning of 2008. And my focus was real estate investors. I actually came in using a marketing sort of system that a guy was selling, basically licenses. So I came in and I had a focus. I wasn't doing traditional real estate, which I think is different than what I think one thing that is frustrating to me that I see about the real estate industry, and really any sales industry, etc., is that they're provided all the nuts and bolts, but not actually how to get business. Yep. Right? Like, not to actually how to win. So when you get your real estate license, or even in network marketing, like, they teach you all the here's how to fill out these forms and here's how to keep things legal, but no one, or very few people, actually tell you, like, here's how to actually get clients, right? And if they do teach that, they're teaching, open a phone book, or go on Facebook or do the memory jogger. It's funny. I told that story about the network marketing and the memory jogger. The day I met with my real estate broker, he gave me the same thing.
Yep.
He gave me the same thing. Here's a memory jogger. Write down 200, people that you can call and ask for referrals. And I was like, man, I am not. I already went down this road 5 years ago in the network marketing realm. So I was an agent for a number of years. My second year, I was with a local broker, a small independent brokerage. And in my second year, I was number one in sales. Not massive numbers, but not bad for my second year. It was somewhere in the 40s or the 50s. But all along that process, or all along that journey, the thing that really was most exciting and interesting to me was the lead generation and conversion. Like, how can I more strategically attract the people that the clients that I want to work with, so that they're chasing me versus me chasing or begging them for business. And through that journey, I realized that that's what I was really passionate about. And teaching and coaching is really what I wanted to do, not necessarily working with clients, people buying real estate, but I wanted to help other real estate agents and small business owners, etc., be able to do that. And some of that comes from seeing my parents struggle growing up as well, and struggle with the same thing. Not that they were great at what they did, which I think, there are so many real estate professionals and business owners of all kinds who are awesome at what they do, but unless have predictable systems for attracting clients to you and customers to you, it almost doesn't matter how wonderful you are or your services or your product or whatever. If you miss that component, you're not going to survive. And so for all of those reasons and sort of the life experiences that I had, that's where I decided to focus. And so I sort of phased myself out of actively selling day-to-day real estate and started full-time training and coaching and providing systems and software in 2009, 2010. And, I've still had all sort of twists and turns along the way with that. I built up a company with a partner, and we ended up selling it in 2011, and thought that was going to be great. Had big aspirations. The company made us a bunch of promises, and we thought we were going to be able to help more of the people we were trying to help and provide better service to them, and it just never happened. And so, recently I launched something, a new brand and a new platform with the same mission that I've had all along, which is helping people systematically attract their ideal client at will. Like, how can you go and do that so you don't have to spend your days, whatever profession you're in or sales profession, being a glorified telemarketer or door-to-door salesman?
Yep, love it, man, love it. So when you're transitioning from being a realtor into the training and coaching, because I know that's what your passion is, that's what what you really want to do, but there's also got to be this demand for it in the marketplace, right? And you got to get your message out there, and especially in the real estate space. I've been a realtor now for a decade, have a real estate team still myself, and it's one of those things where we're sold thousands of times a day, so I know how difficult of a niche that can be. How difficult was it making that transition? So if there's somebody that does want to get into that, maybe coaching and consulting space, kind of what was that journey like, that transition?
Yeah, well, it's funny. My timing has been impeccably terrible with most everything that I've chosen. Like, I got started investing in real estate right as the market was starting to crash. I got into doing this full time at the peak of the crash, where there was like the fewest realtors there had been in a decade. So I did everything at the absolute wrong time, if you look at it from that perspective. But it taught me a lot. And I would say to your question, I think the biggest thing is just being authentic. I hear all the time from the community that I've built that's one of the reasons why they resonate with me and my message, is that I come off as being authentic because I feel like I am. I'm not trying to be something I'm not. This is my uniform for the winter. It's an Under Armour long sleeve T-shirt. Like, literally, I have a drawer full of them, and that's who I am. And I don't try to. When I create content, if I create videos, I don't try and dress up in a way that's not who I am. I try to be authentic in the words that I use and how I speak. And sometimes that turns people off, but that's good too. If you try to be all things to all people, you end up being nothing to no one. So I'm just trying to connect with the people who resonate with the message that I have and the journey that I've been on, and if they don't connect with that, I'm fine with that. In fact, I think one of the things I could do a better job is repel the people who aren't a good fit. Because I think one thing that I struggle with, and I think a lot of people struggle with, is trying to please everyone. And even though I said that great little, that little quote, it's still something that I struggle with, is trying to make everybody happy. You end up, it's a zero-sum game. So I think, being authentic and creating value without an expectation of getting value back, right? Just trying to do good without expecting anything in return. I think that's generally applicable to anyone in any type of business in any situation. If you can do that, you're going to win. You might not win immediately, but if you can do it and take a long view of it, there's a great Gary Vaynerchuk video. I forget the name of it, but it's all about having the long view and about hard work and patience. And I think if you can, if you can be that way, if you can take that different perspective, and if you can focus on value, eventually it's going to come back. Now, you do need to layer on strategy, and there are some specific tactics and things that will help expedite that process. But I think it's a mindset shift that you really have to make. I mean, there's so much noise in the marketplace about, push button or easy this or that, when, if I really broke down how I got to a tipping point, let's say in this industry, it was a freaking grind. Like, it's worth it, because there is the amount of return that I have gotten from the 8 to 12 month grind that got me to a tipping point. I'm still reaping those benefits, and that happened 6 years ago, right? So it was totally worth it. But if I hadn't gone through that grind, I never would have gotten to the point that I'm at. So I think it's having a mindset shift that, like, you're not going to transform everything in a week or a month, and maybe not even in a year. But if you take a long view and you be authentic, and you focus on being valuable, eventually you'll win.
Yep. Love it, man. Love it. I mean, you're coaching and consulting a lot of real estate agents on marketing, and there's an amazing book out there, Ready, Fire, Aim, right? And he talks about in there about how as entrepreneurs, 80% of our focus, at least in kind of that $0 to $1 million in revenue phase, 80% of our focus should be marketing, should be sales, and then only 20%. On that. I mean, do you feel that holds true with the real estate industry? And then also shifting with that, when it comes to marketing in your style, like, what do you see in 2015, the biggest mistakes that are common that you're seeing real estate agents make in their marketing?
Yeah. So to address the first part of your question, I think that's one of the things that I see as wrong with our industry, and we touched on it a little bit already. Is we think we're in the real estate sales business. We're in the business of taking clients and seeing houses or listing homes. And ultimately, yes, that is how you get paid, but you can't get to that point without having a systematic way to bring those clients in. I mean, I feel like a majority of real estate agents live with at least a low level of fear every single day, because they don't have that, and because they're always wondering and fearful of where their next client is going to come from, where that next commission check is going to come from. And so, but the ones that don't have that fear are the ones that have developed the skill sets and the systems to be consistently bringing in those clients, and not only any clients, but their ideal clients, the clients that they actually want to work with. And when you have those kind of systems, the other things that happens is you don't have to live in a scarcity mindset. So many agents have clients that they would love to just kick to the curb because because they don't value what we do, or they are unreasonable or whatever. But because most of them don't have systems, and they don't have clients in waiting, they feel like, they have to sort of grin and bear it and do whatever necessary, because, they just don't, they're not in the position to say no to that business, right? So, to answer the second part of your question, what is changing and what is different? Well, from when I first started teaching, I mean, the consumer expectations have changed drastically. So you can't just, you have to provide value now before you expect someone to connect with you. I think when I first got started, it was very easy to connect with an audience just by making a very direct offer with them, and then provide value to them after they've connected with you, right? After they've opted in or connected with you on social media or something like that. You can't do that anymore. At least in my experience, is that you've got to create ways for you to provide value in the mind of the consumer before you ever expect them to connect with you, before you expect them to call you or text you or fill out a form online, or even connect with your fan page or engage with you on any level. You have to provide value to them first. And I think that is a massive opportunity, because so few people, real estate or otherwise, are willing and able to do that. If you are the one in your marketplace who is doing that, you will immediately massively differentiate yourself amongst your competition. It's harder work. It requires you to think, right? You can't just, it means that you can't take something, you can't take a cookie cutter approach. You can't simply, get some system and just cut and paste it to your business. You actually have to sit and think about, how can I provide value to the client that I'm trying to attract. And that's just, I think that's part of doing business. If you want to be able to survive, and if you want to thrive, and you want to get away from having to spend hours a day on the phone or doing pop buys or door knocking and that kind of stuff, you're going to have to up your game, which is not going to be easy, but there's massive reward for those who are willing and able to do that.
And I find that in the real estate industry, it's such a dinosaur industry, so if people really can grasp the concepts that you're talking about, it's so easy to get ahead of the curve. But a lot of times we kind of got to seek outside of our industry to see what other industries are doing to bring to our industry. So, what are some of the things that you look to, other industries that you look to get your ideas, to make sure that you're keeping yourself and your coaching clients ahead of the curve?
Yeah, so to what the guys in that space who are doing it effectively, who are have been doing it for a long time, and I try to really model and learn from them, and then take it from what they're doing and applying it to real estate or real estate related industries. So I think the biggest thing that I do for my clients and my community is taking those best practices outside of the industry, just like you said, and figuring out how they apply inside of our industry. And in doing so, it helps me and helps my clients and the community that I've built stay ahead of the curve as it relates to our competition. And I would say, because real estate is such a dinosaur type of industry, you can still be behind a little bit and massively win. You don't have to be super cutting edge. You just have to be slightly ahead of the rest of the people in your market, and you're going to have a massive advantage. And so that's how I do it. I keep my eye on guys like Ryan Dice, guys like Frank Kern, and what they're doing in their businesses. Those guys have been amazing, both silent and personal mentors of mine, and I've I've taken what I've learned with them for years now, and that's what I've done. I've applied it to real estate for building my community, but also in teaching best practices to the community.
Yep, love it, man. So speaking of your coaching programs that you offer, what kind of coaching platforms do you offer, and then how would our audience, because probably 85% of our audience are tied to the real estate community,
Sure.
Right? So how would they find more out about you, find more out about your coaching programs?
Sure. So I don't offer traditional coaching. We've never offered that, and I never will, because I'm not a fan of what that industry typically embodies, which is accountability to doing shit that I don't want to do and that most people don't want to do. So I don't want to get on a call every week with somebody who's going to hammer me for 30 minutes about making more calls or doing more pop buys or doing, that kind of stuff. So I've never had that type of program. I'll never offer that type of program. I think maybe I probably had a coach like that for a month or two at some point, but it didn't last long because it just wasn't resonating with the core of who I am. So we have something called Client Alchemist, and it's the brand that I mentioned sort of at the beginning. That is, it's a platform that we just recently launched, and our sort of mission and belief is helping real estate professionals systematically attract their ideal client, and how they can do that primarily online and with massive amount of leverage. So if folks are listening, if you go to clientalchemist.com, you can check that out. You can see what we're doing. Our primary program is a community combined with, it's sort of, we combine a couple of different concepts into one thing. So for our pro members, we've got a community where we can interact and we can mastermind and we can network. We do live weekly office hours, so we can hop on and we can share ideas. We can look at what other pro members are doing, etc. And in our members area, we have a library of very specific step-by-step action plans. So wherever you're at, whatever you need help with, you can go in, you can access an action plan, and simply implement. You just take action. And we offer marketing critiques for our pro clients. So if you're running some type of marketing campaign and you'd like to have it critiqued, or you're thinking about running a marketing campaign, you can submit that, and me or one of our team members, we kind of check it out and we critique it and help you with that. But our core sort of process that we take people through is a 4-part process, and the steps are identify, attract, connect, and converse. So step 1, we talk about and we help our clients figure out and identify who is their ideal market. And this one step alone, if the real estate portion of our listener, and actually anybody listening, if you can understand this part, the rest of attracting clients and building an audience and building a community becomes infinitely easier. Is if you can identify who your ideal target audience is, the rest of the process becomes simple. They're generally speaking terrible at this. Your whole market is not is not who you want to identify as your audience, right? You do not want to, you cannot and should not try and, like we said, be all things to all people. So, you need to pick a segment of your market and identify those people as that's who I'm going to create messaging and who I'm going to create value for so that I can attract them. And so, the mistake that most people make is they try to cast too wide of a net. So I'm a real estate agent in Philadelphia, let's say, and I try to, I'm trying to do business in all parts of Philadelphia. Well, that's crazy. You're going to run yourself ragged, and that goes back to that, you're trying to be all things to all people, so you end up being nothing to no one. Versus picking a segment of Philadelphia, let's say Fishtown, and you become the expert. You become the go-to person when someone is, when someone is looking to buy in Fishtown, or somebody's looking to sell their house in Fishtown. They know that so-and-so is the Fishtown expert, right? And so once we identify with our clients, the next thing is, what are we going to do to attract them? How are we going to provide value to them? How are we going to be interesting, engaging, provide value, and provide information to that audience so they'll be attracted to us? And the next part is, how are we going to connect with them? And this is wildly different than in years past. When I first got started, the way we connected, or the way I was teaching to connect, was to build an email list, right? Just to get people to opt in. But there's lots of ways to get people to connect now. We can build a fan base, right? We can build an invisible audience by pixeling or cookieing people. We can target friends of fans, right? So there's lots of different ways to connect right now. And then the last part of the process is converse. And I intentionally use that word versus convert. I don't like the word convert because it feels like it's an event, and it's not. When you're, especially in real estate, but in any business now, it's a process, not an event. To take someone who doesn't know you to becoming a customer or a client, it is a process, not an event. And the best way to keep that process moving is to simply converse with people. It's to build a relationship with people. It's to treat them the way you want to be treated. So I don't really believe in fancy scripted processes. Now, we give our people some scripts to start conversations, but once the conversation is started, you shouldn't be focused on what's the ninja phrase that I can use to get this person to say yes. I've found that if you just treat them with kindness and respect and grace, and treat them like you want to be treated, they're going to naturally be attracted to you. But if you try and use some sort of ninja tactic on them, you might end up turning them into a client or customer. But are they going to become a lifetime client? Are they going to be somebody who will happily refer you more business? Are they going to have buyer's remorse because of the way you turn them into a client? I think if you look at it from the converse perspective, or our perspective of just being natural, treating them the way you would want to be treated in any sort of selling situation, you're going to get better results short term and long term. So that's kind of the 4 steps that we walk our clients through, and that's also the basis of a book that we're releasing in the next 6 to 8 weeks. That's going to really dive deep into those 4 areas and share very specific examples and case studies, etc. But that's what we're working on, and that's kind of what we're passionate about, and what our mission is.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And to our listeners out there, we'll have, it's clientalchemist.com. Go there, check it out.
Yep.
But we'll have the link below here in the show notes as well, so you guys can just click on that link, take you directly there. Yeah, one thing I love about you, dude, is you're a dude that's done it. So many people in the real estate space, some of these coaches are just coming from a place of theory. They've never done it, or they did it 30 years ago, but they're not staying current. I mean, and you're a guy that really makes sure that, hey, I'm coaching and teaching you guys how to do business in 2015, not 1980. And it's powerful, dude. So our listeners, definitely go check it out. It's pretty epic stuff. So, all right, couple last questions before we wind up. I know you're a busy man, and I'm sure you got a lot going on.
Cool.
So, a few last questions though for you. All right, dude. So, I hate calling them failures, because our failures typically become our best learning experiences, our best growth moments, and really become our greatest assets in the future. What are, whether it's been in your real estate journey or your coaching journey, what are some of the biggest, just as an entrepreneur, what were some of your biggest learning experiences that really defined you to the person that you are today?
Yeah, I mean, there's been there's been quite a lot. I can assure you of that. I would say one of the biggest things, and I can get into like specific examples, but I think the biggest thing that I've learned is the more my focus is fractured, the more things go wrong. So there was a time where I had my hand in a little bit of all these different things. And so I was kind of that jack of all trades, master of none. And I have found almost without question, when I can focus, even if it's just for short periods of time, 30, 60, 90 days, if I can focus on one objective or one project or whatever it may be, the results become exponential versus trying to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and be, all these different things in all these different places. And I think the other big lesson that I've learned is, and this is something that I'm working on a daily basis, is how can I simplify things? What can I do to simplify whatever it might be? Any part of my life, any part of my business. I think it's Einstein that said, genius is taking the complex and making it simple. And I think so many gurus and people that even maybe mean well are trying to do the opposite. They're trying to take simple things and make it complex, when the genius is in taking the complex and make it simple. So that's something that I'm constantly looking at and focusing on and trying to improve upon. The other specific example I would say is when I mentioned that I built up a company, and I'll say the name of the company. It was the name of the company was Reticulous. We built a pretty good following. We had a membership site, and we did we did a lot of the things that I'm still currently doing because it's what I'm passionate about. It's what I believe in, and we built that up to a certain point, and we plateaued for a number of years. Which is part of the reason why we ended up selling it, because we thought, we'd end up being sort of partnered with a larger company, we'd expand, etc. And in hindsight, it's kind of a simple thing, and I kind of knew it throughout that process. But the reason we plateaued is because we were doing the same thing. We didn't look at other ways to attract business. We were doing things one way. We only had one channel, for lack of a better term, and one means of communicating with our community. And so moving forward, the big lesson that I've learned is multiple channels for your message so that you don't plateau, and so that if something happens with one, you've got others. So what does that mean practically for example, Client Alchemist? So that means that we're going to leverage social media and Facebook. We're going to leverage our email database, but we're also going to launch a podcast, which is coming in the next 4 weeks. We're going to, I'm writing a book, which is coming in 6 to 8 weeks. So we're doing things so that we have multiple channels and multiple outlets, and I think that's applicable to anybody. If that three-legged stool kind of analogy, right? You want to have if you look at your business needs to have at least 3 legs, otherwise it's not going to stand, right? And the worst kind of business is if you've got, just one leg, right? So how can you add other channels or other outlets to make sure that your business is stable, and so that you're not relying too heavily on any one thing, which will make your business, very unstable and very unpredictable, and will also, consciously or unconsciously cause you a lot of stress, with that in the back of your mind. What happens if X, Y, Z happens to this?
Yep, love it, dude. Love it, man. So, all right. So something happens, and you get financially just like wiped out, like all this goes away, but you're good, family's good, health's good, like all that stuff's good, but your business, something happens and you get wiped out and you're having to start over, rebuild with very little resources, but you've retained everything that you've learned over the years of your journey here. What would you do immediately to go out there and start rebuilding what you've built, but hopefully, because now you've retained this knowledge, you're able to do it in a much quicker manner?
I think it would be getting really clear on who is my ideal audience, who is the client or customer that that I'm going to provide value to, and start creating that value, whatever that content might be. It might be video, it might be blogging, it might just be on social media, whatever it is, but consistently. So I say this all the time with our pro members on office hours, in our community, all the time. Consistent, imperfect action. Consistent, imperfect action. It's never going to be perfect, but if you can just get the car moving, then you can steer it, right? You can't steer a parked car, but if you get it moving and we get some things happening, now we can steer, right? We can weave in and out of traffic. We can do some things, and I think too many people get stuck in that analysis paralysis or whatever cliche you want to use, but they're waiting to take perfect action, and there is no such thing. So the people, the clients, the pro members that we have, and just the people that I've seen that have had the most amount of success, follow that principle of the ready, fire, aim, right? It's just my explanation of ready, fire, aim. Consistent, imperfect action. So, back to your question though, it's identifying the audience that you can provide value to. Who can you help? Who can you get a win for? And then go start getting them wins. Before you even have a product or something to sell them, go start helping them. Go start providing value to them in whatever form or fashion you can. A blog, like I said, a blog, video, podcast, whatever. It is easier than ever to get your message out there and to help people. But the thing that's going to differentiate or make the difference between you just being noise like everybody else is being really clear on who you can help and how you can help them, and being helpful to them. Just go out and connecting with them, providing value to them, and doing so without an expectation of them reciprocating short-term or long-term.
Yep. Awesome, man. Love it, dude. So, GSD Podcast, this podcast was really created, started about almost a year ago now, and to really get out there and, especially in the real estate industry, there's more information available than any other industry that exists with the least performing people. So it's not a lack of information; it's a lack of quality information. So wanted to interview just top guys like you that are out there doing big things in your life to, number one, inspire audience and give them motivation, inspiration of, hey, this is possible, this could be, but also delivering a lot of tactical knowledge. So with that being said, man, you're a guy that's out there doing some amazing things with your life, creating what you want to create, and taking your fate into your own hands and doing big things. What's maybe some last words of advice, inspiration, motivation that you'd like to leave our listeners with to inspire them to go out there and do the same thing, man? Go out there and create that life that they know they truly want and deserve.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One, sit down and actually think about what you want out of your life. Think about how can you reverse engineer what you want, right? Because I struggle with this, and I know many of the listeners will struggle with this. You see stuff on social media. You see Josh Smith posting, things, and you get this, you struggle with, well, I want to be like that, right? But that might not be what you actually want, right? So you feel like there's this pressure to achieve something that isn't what you want for your life. And I would say that it's okay to not it's okay to create the business that you want, right? If you don't want to have a massive team and do 500 deals a year, because that doesn't resonate with the kind of business that you want, well, then don't feel bad if you're not pursuing that, right? Be okay with the building an excellent, but building it makes sense and that resonates with you, right? You can have a super successful business servicing 20 clients a year, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want, right? And so I think, sitting down and giving yourself quiet time to really understand what you want, and understand that you're going to have to make choices and there's going to be sacrifices either way. Like, for example, I've spoken on stage several times. I could do it a ton if I wanted. I have no interest in doing that. I have 4 young kids. I love my wife, and I don't want to travel a lot without them. I love traveling with them, but I don't want to do that. And so some people would say that maybe that means that I'm not as successful as I could be. I say I'm choosing the life that I want and to live the lifestyle that I want, and that's okay for me. Now, again, I still struggle with things. I see, guys who I am friends with or guys who I know either directly or indirectly and the things they're doing. And there are times where, jealousy or, I don't know that jealousy is the ideal word, but where you feel like this pressure that, maybe I should be, thinking bigger or doing more things. And I don't want to say that it's to discourage people from thinking big, but just understand that, like, you can create the business and the life of your dreams, but it has to be you. So don't let other people's goals and aspirations become yours, unless you choose that, right? So sit down and think about what you want your life to look like, what you want your business to look like, and then figure out and model. So the next part of that is then figure out who has done it in the way that you are wanting to do it, and go and find those people that you can learn from and model, and so forth. So, like, one of the reasons, you mentioned that there's so much noise in our industry, and I think, what's unfortunate is this happens a lot where people end up with goals and aspirations that don't resonate with the core of who they are because of the noise that's out there. And so I think, just sit down and really take time to understand yourself and what you want, and be okay with you pursuing that, even if it's not what your broker is recommending or wanting you to do, or whoever, the people that you see on Facebook posting, etc. Because all of those choices come at a cost. There's a cost of all of them, and so you've got to determine what makes sense for you and your family in your life. So that was a bit of a rant. I hope that.
I love it, man. Really powerful words. I absolutely love it, man. And to our listener base, greatly appreciate you guys being here, watching, listening. Like I end every podcast with, information without implementation is the start of delusion, right? Information is not power. It's information combined with massive execution that becomes power and creates power in your world. So you've heard from one of the top dudes in the space, a top entrepreneur, top real estate agent, top coach. And this guy knows what he's talking about. He delivered a lot of just amazing info. Make sure that you're taking at least a couple things that he talked about today and go implement now into your business so you can start creating the results that you want to create. And Josh, dude, it's been a massive honor having you on, dude. This has been an awesome time, my friend. It's been really cool talking with you.
I appreciate you having me. It's been a blast, and I echo your sentiments. Right? Find it. Seek information, take consistent, imperfect action. Results will follow.
Yep, love it. Well, thanks again, Josh, and your listeners. Thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. You guys go dominate. Have an awesome week, and we'll see you next time.